figuring out a way to not have to trade my time for money, for really wanting to have that independence when I inevitably knew maybe I wouldn't be able to hold down a W-2 job. All of these things were swirling in my head after I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and trying to figure out a way to hold down my full-time job in biotech, deal with the other full-time job that was dealing with cystic fibrosis, and then build this kind of side hustle.
Welcome to the Threefold Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is the podcast where you'll not only learn how you can achieve massive success in multifamily real estate investing, but also how you can simultaneously pursue great relationships with your family and a better walk with God. You can achieve financial freedom through real estate investing without sacrificing the relationships that mean the most to you. Now, here's your host, Lee Yoder.
Welcome back, Threefold listeners. I hope you're having a great week. We've got a great guest today. Really excited to bring her on. Amy Sylvis is joining us today from the state of California. She is the founder and principal of Sylvis Capital, a real estate firm that invests in large multifamily properties in emerging markets throughout the United States. Sylvis Capital currently has over 650 apartment units and $62 million worth of assets under management. Accredited and non-accredited investors appreciate investing alongside them to take advantage of not only their extensive experience, but also their detailed research and exclusive relationships. Amy, welcome to the show. First of all, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Amy, if you don't know, she's a great follow on LinkedIn, maybe other social media. We can talk about that, but I mostly just do LinkedIn. Puts out a lot of great content, really educating people on why maybe they should consider making multifamily, apartment buildings part of their investment portfolio. I'm really passionate about that as well here at Threefold. So, really excited to have you on, Amy. I want to get into all this, like what you're up to lately, how you educate people on multifamily, but can you take us all the way back when you started getting educated on investing in apartment buildings? What were you doing? What got you interested in it? Take us all the way back there.
You got it. Well, I was just a recent newly minted MBA grad, actually, back in 2010 when I stumbled upon Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think all of us recognize that little purple book, right? That gives us that paradigm shift. I was really on this path of trying to find a bigger, better W-2. We can get into a bit more as to why that is. But I was really blown away by the fact that I didn't have to trade my time for money. I could be an investor in real estate and earn money while I slept or traveled or any of those great things. That's really how that journey of education and getting into the industry began.
Yeah, same for me. I mean, I was handed another real estate book, but then read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And it's a mindset shift. I have it right, which shoulder? This shoulder.
There you go.
Over my shoulder. It opens your mind to, the way I explain it, the only way I can really explain it is like a whole new game that some other people are playing that I didn't even know about. And when I heard about it, I thought, why don't I know about this? Why has nobody told me about this? Why don't more people know about this? So I think it sounds like you and I both had a similar experience, and now we're trying to tell more people about it. So you got that. But how did you actually get into real estate then? Like, what was your first move?
Yes. So the interesting backstory is I had some pretty awful health issues, which we can get into if you want. All's well that ends well. It's not a dark story. But I did try to get into multifamily real estate several times, ended up having to be a passive investor to kind of learn, best practices, what all, the space looked like. But it took me a good 10 years to get to the GP position, to get into really the owner-operator space of multifamily real estate. So it was a tenacious journey, but it worked out.
Yeah, if you don't mind, Amy, I would love to hear your story. So there's some people that can identify it, whatnot. I mean, maybe a little bit different struggle, but sure, whatever you feel comfortable telling us. I'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. I'm an open book. And as you said, no one gets through this life without struggles, right? And I always love to talk about, I'm sure you do as well. Often there are blessings that come with those struggles if you really pay attention, right? And intentionally look for it. So I was born with cystic fibrosis in 1981, which is a lung condition where I knew from a very young age that my lungs likely were going to deteriorate over time and fail. And so I was supposed to live to be about 18 years old or so.
Okay.
I'm 41 now. Nothing like
Congratulations. That's
define.
amazing.
Thank you.
Gotta
Thank
love,
you. I'm very blessed, very, very
Yes.
grateful. But part of that meant I was in and out of the hospital, as I continued to live longer, but had those struggles. And so, figuring out a way to not have to trade my time for money, for really wanting to have that independence when I inevitably knew maybe I wouldn't be able to hold down a W-2 job. All of these things were swirling in my head after I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and trying to figure out a way to hold down my full-time job in biotech, deal with the other full-time job that was dealing with cystic fibrosis, and then build this kind of side hustle. Exactly. So long story short, took 10 years, and a miracle medication came to the market for CF in 2019, just before the pandemic. Yeah, and it really allowed me to walk into my full potential with great health.
Oh my goodness, what a miracle. That's amazing. Okay, so kind of that allowed you maybe to get more serious about it. And so how have you, maybe if you want to share a little bit of, because again, this is where I think people can really identify with you. It's starting out passively, because that's a great way to start out. And I know that's what you're helping people do. So you were in a position where it sounds like busy W-2, but also other things going on, which is often other people. We get a lot of people, not only do they have a pretty busy W-2, they have kids. So to go do a side hustle of real estate, not a real option. So maybe they just have some capital they can invest. So maybe talk to us a little bit about that, of how you started, and why maybe that's a good way for other people to get started.
Yes. So to your point, we all run into obstacles, again, they might not be health related, but really identifying the next best step. If we've got a goal and we think we're going in a certain direction and for some reason we're reaching some headwinds, that doesn't mean, okay, full stop, this isn't for me, or this isn't going to work out. It's more of, what other kind of flavor of this, or how could I pivot or maybe do something similar? So that, yes, meant being a passive investor, and again, laying down the groundwork to eventually become a GP, an active participant in that side of the real estate investing game. But my gosh, the exposure to education, when, being a limited partner, finding folks to invest with that would allow me to sit on some property management calls and just listen and learn, or look at financials and ask questions there. I would highly recommend it to everybody. I know it's made me an incredible owner, operator, and GP, now that I've reached that point. But, of course, I earned great returns as well, and learned more about what good operators look like, communication styles, and all of those things. So, I think it's something everyone should take a look at if they're looking to be an operator one day themselves.
And for maybe some people that are a little bit newer to real estate, can you give us just a real quick, what is a limited partner? What is a passive investor? What is it in general? Then what did that look like for you? That was a real life story about it.
Yes. Yeah. Those are definitely terms we throw around. So thank you for pausing so we can define those. So a real estate syndication essentially has two, pieces of the pie there. One are the people that are actively managing the deal, making the decisions. That's what I do now. So I source the property. I'm the one that's responsible with my business partners on the general partner side of the deal to make those day-to-day decisions, make sure the asset performs, all of those things.
Yep.
Limited partners our passive investors are by law, by syndication law, folks that do not participate in any of these day-to-day decisions. And our limited investors love that. Our limited partners love that, right? Because to your point, they're busy doing other things, but they still get all these great benefits of being owners of real estate. They get the passive income, they get the appreciation, you get the depreciation and the tax benefits, right? All of those things, without having to sign on the loan and be liable that way, and without, late night phone calls talking about a leaky, faucet or something like that. So, there are definitely, something for everybody, and some people like myself do both to maximize those benefits. But it is important to understand kind of what that structure looks like and what the benefits can be. Yeah.
So they're just bringing the money. It ends up being fairly similar to investing in the stock market. Just, I think you and I would argue maybe, even better, and some extra benefits that you don't get with the stock market and things like that. But it's that idea of letting your money work for you. You're doing work, and you're doing this full time, and you're working. This is your job. But your investors, maybe they're working, maybe they're not, whatever they're doing, but they're letting their money work for them as far as your deals go. Right.
Having their money make babies. Yeah.
That's right. So you got it in that way. You're seeing this. What what has you continuing to do real estate, and what made you maybe jump onto the GP side?
I love that question. Yeah. I'm really motivated by caring for people and making an impact in that way. That was one of the reasons I was in biotech as well. But as apartment real estate investors, and I'm sure you all can relate, we get to make decisions to really make people's lives better. Whether it's something, as apparent and obvious as giving them a better place to live, if the residents are looking for kind of spruced up, renovated units, or being more responsive to maintenance requests, or making properties safer, getting rid of some of the, the not so great elements, whether they're residents or maybe just adding security cameras and lights and things.
Sure.
This is really, I like to be hands-on in that respect. I'd like to hear from my property management. Well, I don't like to hear something's going on, but I'd love to know, if something bad is going on, I can solve that. I'm in a position to be that person that can make lives better. So, I think it's incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And I can hear your passion behind it and your excitement for it. And so that's a good reason for people to invest with someone like you that loves doing this and wants to do it and knows a lot about it. I know you like to talk about your goals of achieving the 5 financial freedoms. And so I'm sure you're educating your investors. Do you mind educating my listeners as well? Yeah. How do you explain that? And I'm sure this is why people may want to get into multifamily real estate investing, but can you talk a little bit more about that to us?
Yes, the 5 freedoms. So I have to say, this is not my original idea. I give credit to my business coach, Coach Trevor McGregor, but it really resonates with me. And I think it does to a lot of people. And again, going back to what you said about Rich Dad, Poor Dad and kind of this new way of thinking and these paradigm shifts, if you're like me and you grew up in a humble middle-class family and just kind of went to school, traditional education system, you may not have even been exposed to the idea like I have. So yes, financial freedom. So of course, having that freedom to have passive income, either replace your W-2 or, supplement multiple streams of income. And then we have geographic freedom. So the ability to live where you want. Investing in real estate and having that passive income can really give you the ability to work remotely or do what's called slow travel, which is, take extended vacations or things like that. So we get financial freedom, geographic freedom, of course, time freedom, right? So to spend your time the way that you want, whether that's volunteering or with your family or hobbies, or even at your W-2 that you like, but you don't necessarily have to be there. And then, so our 4th one is freedom of association. So intentionally being around people that you appreciate, that align with your values. Real estate and passive income really gives you the ability to pick and choose who you're around. And we all know we're the sum of the 5 people we hang out with the most, right? And sometimes that's people at your job that maybe you didn't choose to be around them, yet they're in your sphere. Maybe not, but maybe. But if you're financially free and you're investing, you've got this passive income, you can be around great people like Lee who've got, an abundance mentality and focus on making this world a better place. We all want that. And that leads right into freedom of purpose. So again, what is your God-given purpose on this earth? Are you meant to, like what my husband and I do, give to local after-school programs in inner city Los Angeles and know that, the future should be bright, for these kiddos who didn't choose their socioeconomic status, but, that's just kind of where they are. So, what is your purpose? And having passive income through real estate investing really allows folks to lean into that too. So those are the 5 freedoms. Those
are great. I love those. I mean, you start with financial freedom. And I feel like that's where most people start, and it's where maybe they kind of end too. It's just, hey, I just want to, have some more money, and I get that, but I think, and maybe it's because I just imagine a lot of people. I've been here before, and there's times I'm still here. My wife and we're not set by any means, and frankly, we still need to work, and we're not really financially independent yet. But we actually have some of these others as well, and they are like just as good or better. But sometimes when you're just trying to make ends meet and you're just hustling, it's hard to even think about some of these things. And that's why I'm so passionate. I can tell you are too. If people can just get their money working for them, because I just think of people that say, yeah, I'm working, my wife's working, or I'm working, my husband's working, like we're both working, we have no time. If you can just save some, get that money working for you. What if your money could make an extra $10,000 a year? It's not going to set the world on fire. Like we're not preaching get rich quick schemes, right? But
No.
what if your money could make you just an extra 10,000 a year?
Right.
That's like a couple of vacations, right? Paid for. That's maybe your kids, and these days maybe it's only one kid, but that might be private school, or that might might lead to one of you staying home part-time. I mean, it's not
right.
Even that, it gives you so much more freedom. Or does it just start building up a nest egg that just gives you a little more confidence, or a little more, you can relax a little bit? Because going to work and feeling like, if I lost this job, we are toast, is a much different feeling than, I've got some other things working for me. If I lose this job, it's not going to be good, but I'll be okay, and I'll have some time to get another, right? Like, there's a lot more than just being either totally strapped for cash and hustling, every day, right, you and your wife, and maybe just having like a little bit, or there's a lot in between that and being totally financially independent. So I'm glad you bring those things up, because time freedom, I think if people really look at, that's so much more important than even financial freedom. But it's kind of hard to have that until you start moving toward financial freedom, right? In some ways, the same thing with, geographic freedom. And maybe, more people are experiencing that today since COVID. So yeah, I'm glad you go into that. Maybe tell me like a little bit about which ones maybe specifically really resonated with you a lot and really get you excited, maybe your investors too.
Yes. Yeah. I really think of one investor who is a physician that invests alongside us. He loves what he does. He's highly specialized. He's very successful at what he does, but he wants to be able to practice kind of on his terms, and associate with people that align with his values, and not really have this kind of corporate, as kind of medicine has become, this obligation of, he earns a lot of money, but he's not necessarily around the exact people that he wants, or treating the exact patient type. So I know that's kind of specific, but it is a nice way to think about how, money is great, but it's really a vehicle to have that kind of time freedom and association freedom, and even geographic freedom, right, to design our lives the way that we want them to be. So I think, my husband and I are the same. Money is great. No one's going to say that it's not, but I think when you earn a lot of money, you realize, it isn't the end all be all. Having meaning and having freedom really, means a lot. So we're planning on living abroad, exploring this gorgeous world that God has given us, and meeting people that are different than ourselves. And that's something that will be afforded, in addition to continuing to grow our charity work and make sure our parents retire comfortably. So all of these things are so meaningful to us.
Speaking of that, and you kind of brought up travel and you and your husband and the awesome charity work that you guys, help out with. I'd like to transition a little bit of that. And what has maybe multifamily investing specifically done for you and your husband, your families? Tell me a little bit more about the family aspect of things.
Yeah. So my husband and I are very close to our large families. My mom is the second of 10 children, and most of our huge family lives here in Los Angeles. Awesome. Yeah, it's a lot of people. Irish Catholic people don't mess around. That's how that goes. But yeah, the being able to invest in real estate means that I'm not always, having to report to a job, report to a boss. Yes. Do I work hard? Absolutely. But am I able to, go visit some local relatives down the street in the middle of the day and, really pour into those relationships? Or my mom got COVID a few weeks ago. She's fine. But, you want to be there for your aging parents and just not have to say, I got to check in with the boss to see if I can, go or something like that. My husband still works at his W-2. He loves what he does. That may change over time. But again, kind of like the physician I spoke about, for my husband, it's a choice. And going to work knowing it's a choice and something you're eager to do, as opposed to it's something we absolutely must do in order to, keep a roof over our head and pay bills. It's a totally different experience.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tell me a little bit, what are your travel goals? What are you guys thinking? You want to get overseas and just work over there? That's exciting.
I think it would be tremendous. It is. Sure. I'm a big traveler. I feel closest to God when I travel, which may sound like an interesting thing, but there's something to be said for expanding our horizons. I love this country, right? Being an American is incredible, but understanding how people have different perspectives and cultures and frames of mind is something very special. My husband grew up very humbly. And in fact, he just went outside of the country for the very first time a few weeks ago to Canada. Yeah. So seeing the world through his eyes and being able to work
Yeah.
full time or be able to work and live full time
Yeah.
abroad, I think is an experience we both cannot wait for.
Amy, before I let you go, as we kind of wrap up here, I'd like to ask for a book recommendation. Do you have any good ones, real estate wise, that you've read recently or you'd like to recommend?
I do. This is kind of real estate adjacent. Can I go there?
Yeah,
Is that okay?
Absolutely. Of course. Yeah.
The Creature from Jekyll Island. I'm not sure if you all have heard of it or read it.
I love it.
You know, we're living in times of high inflation and interest rate variability. And those of us who have read that book before kind of understand the greater monetary system, saw some of this coming. And I think it's a lengthy book. It's pretty in-depth, but it is well worth everyone's time because it really helps you understand why hard assets that are inflation resistant, like real estate, are so important, or at least for me and my family at this time, to own and be invested in.
The question I'd like to ask at the end, what do you think is maybe a key ingredient for being a successful real estate investor? What's something you think everybody needs to have?
You know, I really think the humility and drive to work with others. I'll be the first to admit, as kind of a type A, go-getter, get it done type lady, it was really something that held me back. And it was only until I realized that I could go further faster with folks that shared my values and that had complementary skills. And that really made investing that much more enjoyable too, and multiplied my impact beyond anything I could have imagined. I think it's essential. This is a team sport, and it is something where, making sure you find people that are great partners that you can grow with is essential. So that would be my biggest recommendation.
Yeah, well said. Let's flip that question a little bit. What does it take to be successful in real estate, but also keep your priorities?
Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. I do a lot of journaling. I have, community in my faith community where we, talk very openly about things that are on top of our mind. We have open, vulnerable relationships because, we all have blind spots, right? And so if I surround myself with folks that have my common values and goals of, to your point, putting my family first and thinking, about my kingdom goals, I've got goosebumps, but, things of that nature that can really encourage me and support my husband and I as we, design this part of our life while keeping in mind, where ultimately where we're going and who we're serving has really been a key for us. And we fumbled. I have no shame in saying that. And but
yes,
that's it. Yeah, that's really it. And we're there to support others as they live their lives as well. So it's very special.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, Amy. I've enjoyed getting to know you. You've got a great story. I know you're very active on LinkedIn. Is that probably best social media wise where people can find you?
Yes. Yeah. I'm primarily only active. Yeah. There in terms of social media.
Okay.
Yes.
And then sylviscapital.com. That's SYLVIS capital.com. Go there.
Yes, sir. That's it. Absolutely.
Great. Yeah, I love the 5 freedoms. I think that stuff's important to everybody, and it may seem out of reach. It's not necessarily. I think for most people it is within reach, but you may have to think about things differently. That may take more than just a W-2, right? It may take investing well, which, they can go over to Sylvis Capital and learn more about that. So this has been great. Thanks, Amy. Before I let you go, can I ask you, what would be maybe something my listeners and I could be praying for you, maybe you and your family in the coming weeks?
Oh, amazing. Thank you for asking that. Let's see. There are about 10% of people with cystic fibrosis that do not have access, or that the new miracle drug doesn't work for the type of cystic fibrosis that they have. And we are determined to get them, something that changes their lives as well. And we think about them every time we take our miracle medication. So, if you all wouldn't mind praying for those folks and for wisdom, we're heavily involved in that. And we know that the answer is there and it's closer than we think. But your prayers on that would be incredibly meaningful.
Oh, yeah. I would love to pray for that. Wow. I didn't know that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Amy, well, thanks again. This has been a lot of fun. I'm sure we'll be in touch. And have a blessed day. Thanks for coming on.
I hope so. Thank you again. This is amazing.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode. I hope you'll take action on what you've learned today. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider leaving Lee a 5-star rating and review. And check him out on threefoldrei.com. Until next time, 1 Timothy 6:17.